Hey guys, it's Coach Caglione here, and today we're talking about starting your overhead press from scratch. So the press is a fantastic movement. It may even be better in terms of general strength than like the bench press, even though it's not as popular. But what we'll say, one caveat to this is not everyone has the range to do this. So please check out our assessment video first. Make sure you have enough shoulder flexion in order to overhead press properly. If you can't overhead press, if you don't have full shoulder range of motion, the incline press is a good compromise. So if you're able to do overhead pressing, overhead lifting safely, then you continue watching and enjoy the video. So once you kind of establish that, a good place to start is just getting comfortable overhead. So using a dumbbell or a kettlebell, doing what's called just like a waiter walk is a good place to start. If you're using a kettlebell or a dumbbell, we want to make sure the wrist and elbow is stacked. So we're just going to push it overhead, and we can just hang out here and just work on overhead position. You could also do hang on a pull-up bar and do scap pull-ups and things like that. And I could just gonna go for this is a good if you have a turf section. If not, you can kind of just hang out. We just want to just get comfortable, you know, with the overhead position here. What I like about the kettlebell, it's going to kind of pull you back a little bit versus have you here. So it's going to kind of really kind of force you into a good overhead position. So that's going to be a waiter walk. That's a great place to start. Just kind of get comfortable overhead. Another thing you could do is obviously just like hang from a pull-up bar and just work on those scap pull-ups, which I think we did a video with Black Tom Cruise, everyone's favorite hype man, so we could definitely check those out as well. So waiter walk's a good place to start. In terms of using the kettlebell, and this goes for all the drills, whether you do the waiter walk or just we're going to show you some pressing variations. We can also do a bottoms up drill. What's nice about this drill is it kind of forces your shoulder in a good position. If you do have any shoulder limitations, your grip will kind of, your nervous system will kind of make your grip fail kind of. I'm saying it wrong, but if you look up like someone like Jordan Shallow, he can kind of explain it better than me. But the bottoms up waiter walk and these bottoms up presses are also really good to start, especially if you're kind of someone that maybe has cranky shoulders. There's also a limit the amount of weight you can do and still get a great benefit from that as well. So we'll show those as well. From there, I like to do a kettlebell half kneeling, tall kneeling press. The reason why I like the tall kneeling position is going to make sure you're not in a bad position. So if I'm too far back or too far forward, it's going to be really hard to stabilize. So we're going to get a nice tall position. A lot of times with overhead pressing, people will overextend to cheat the lockout. In the tall kneeling position, it's going to be very hard to do so. So I'm bracing with my stomach, I'm squeezing my glutes. I'm going to push up and then rotate back slightly. Pause at the top, pause at the bottom. In terms of scapular position, you're going to have a natural scapular humeral rhythm. So as I flex the shoulder, my shoulder's going to elevate naturally and then depress naturally in the back. Again, if I'm arching too much or leaning too far forward, I'm going to lose my balance. So I could do the same thing from a bottoms up position as well. From here, I can go to a half kneeling position. Just to switch it up a little bit. Or I could just go from right to standing. Now I need to work on rooting my feet. We should know this already, rooting the feet, breathing and bracing, locking down the upper back, and then coming here. Obviously I want to do this on both sides, and I can do the same thing, bottoms up. If I want to progress the load a little bit, I can certainly start to progress to two bells as well. And I can do this, again, from every position I want. And again, I can do the same thing from the bottoms up position. So once I'm able to, these are 26-pound kettlebells, so this is more than like a women's bar already anyway. You may need to start with something lighter, lighter weights, especially for the press. So one thing that you could do, if you're having trouble, I don't recommend doing this with really, really heavy weight. And if you have any lower back issues, I don't recommend this drill, but you can do this in the power rack. But a good way to kind of work on your overhead. So just with a dowel rod's good. This is a Z press. And this is really going to force you to be tall. So again, if you have any lower back issues, I don't recommend you do this version. If you do want to, you could also go to a seated press, which might be a little bit easier on the low back. But the Z press is good if you have the mobility for it. So again, what's great about the seated press, if I lean back too far or arch too much, I'm going to lose my balance. So the seated press is with the barbell is a good in-between position here. And again, I want to come up and back. That's the groove. And then eventually you go standing, so you can either clean the first rep or you go out of a rack. So we're gonna make sure we have the forearms stacked, elbows forward. I'm creating a shelf with the lats. So let's start with a strict press first. And eventually we can go to a press 2.0 where I get my hip drive without, not a push press, but so a press 2.0 is with the hip drive. So you can watch hips and then go. It's hard to do with the lighter weight, but Elvis can put some videos of me doing some heavier weight. But I'm basically just doing a hip throw without bending my knees, just to kind of create some space, using my lower body, using my glutes to kind of get the movement started. It's kind of like adding leg drive to the bench press, same idea. So I could do a feet up bench, which is pure upper body. I could do a strict press, which is pure upper body. A regular bench press, adding leg drive is going to add some lower body component into it. A press 2.0 is going to add some lower body component into it. Some common faults is pushing it forward, leaning back too much. Unless you're like a competitive like strength lifting lifter, I don't really recommend that, which is probably, it's not many people. But if you do compete in the press, it's something to learn. But just for lower back health and safety, we recommend for most people, just stay with like a strict press. So again, start off with your waiter walks, start off with your tall kneeling kettlebell or dumbbell presses, start off with some standing or seated kettlebell dumbbell presses. Work on the Z press a little bit or a seated barbell press depending on your mobility. Eventually a standing press and then a press 2.0. This would be a great movement to do either after you bench or on a secondary bench day for volume. With the press specifically, you definitely want to use micro plates. You may not be able to add 5 pounds every workout. 1 pound, 2 pound jumps, especially for women, older people. I definitely recommend the woman's bar for most people. Or you also have like a 20 pound axle. That's a great place to start for like a lot of women and a lot of youth athletes for the press. Because the 45 pound bar might be too much for some people starting out. So that's the beginner's guide to the press. If you guys have any questions or if you want to support the program, share it with a friend. Like the video, please subscribe. Check out the links below. And until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.